Hi, welcome to Sports Nerds episode 7. I think it's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max couldn't join us tonight, so it'll be myself, Phil, and Mike joining us. So we got a few topics to talk about. A little bit on the NBA playoffs, not too much in the NHL, as that seems to be going according to plan. And a little bit on NFL news, and a little bit on the surprising, I guess, maybe not, in head coach firing. Which actually, I'd say we should probably kick that off because I kind of understand why they fire Scott Brooks, but to me, if you're going to fire somebody, don't you have to have somebody to replace him?
Yeah. And I totally, I mean, you and I were both pretty surprised. You and I both thought that he wouldn't get canned. But I think what doomed Scott Brooks was that he succeeded too well, too early. You know, he went to the title game his second year, I think, and it's just been all downhill from there. Everyone was expecting him to go back, and they have been able to. But granted, you know, they got rid of James Harden. You know, they went with Ibaka, not Harden, which obviously just killed him. And then they've just been dealt just injury after injury after injury this year. And I think they're trying to probably get a new, fresh look on this team to try to keep Durant around because, you know, Durant kept saying, you know, he wants to stay in Oklahoma City. But, you know, that's just lip service, I think. And I think management's just trying to scramble to do whatever they can.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, at this point, but I don't know necessarily that you're going to get somebody that's gonna. I mean, to me, this is where you bring in like a Doc Rivers, some guy that has a historical background that can take proven veterans and bring them along. I don't really know of anyone that's out there. I mean, George Karl's another guy that you could bring in to do that. I mean, surprisingly, Kerr, I didn't think necessarily would be that kind of coach, but apparently he is as well. Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to try and hire away the Spoelstra from Miami, but he's not necessarily looking as good as he was with when he had LeBron, which probably true for most players.
Yeah, LeBron makes a lot of coaches look good. Trust me, I've seen it firsthand for a decade now. But yeah, no, and I have to agree with you. I mean, I don't really see who else they're going to bring in. I mean, a lot of unproven coaches. Everyone's talking about Billy Donovan, the head coach from Florida, but he's been a college coach, and these guys they're not going to respond the way college players do. You know, when you coach on a college team, it's in your face, rah, 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 rah. When you're a pro coach, you kind of have to lay back, let the pros be the pros. And I don't know if he's got that style. I mean, he did have that really short stint. I think it was with Orlando, or he was going to go to Orlando.
Going to go to Orlando, and then he backed out.
He was going to. Yeah, and he backed out. So, I mean, and then again, like besides Billy Donovan, who else? I mean, Mark Jackson. I mean, he had it 1 year with Golden State and had basically had the same team Steve Kerr had, and Steve Kerr's done, you know, head and shoulders better than what Mark Jackson did. And word was that Mark Jackson was kind of like that rah-rah guy, you know, that in-your-face guy, which a lot of players don't care for. You know, and then the big excuse is like, you know, they got Durant and Westbrook, and it's like, who wouldn't want to come and coach these guys? So, you know, they like they got their pick of the litter, but I don't see a litter out there. I see, you know, a couple of runts. You know, I don't see too much. And you know, and you know, you have a coach like that, you know, like Scott Brooks, who's been there for a while. You know, he made his name there, and you know, he kind of like he grew up with this team more or less. And you think that, you know, I mean, even if he was going to go into his last season of his contract, I mean, with that team, it's his guys. You know, I think I don't see what the big issue is. You know, it's one thing if they kind of just revamp the entire team and he's still there with a year left. You know, of course, they're not going to care for him, but, you know, you got a lot of guys that have been there since the beginning with him, and I don't see why they would just abandon ship on him. But I think it all has to go back to Durant. It all comes back to Durant and trying to keep Durant and doing what, you know, for all we know, it was Durant's idea to get rid of him, but, you know, you never know. But
it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think he was a decent coach, and I agree with you. I think the problem was he was so successful so early, but at the same time, the GM hamstrung him when you traded away Harden rather than wait out one more year and actually see who you should pay for. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll have to see. I definitely think Scott Brooks will get hired and put into another position before next year, so he won't have to really worry. Other than that, I mean, we'll have to see. I guess this kind of can lead into the other drama that's going in. Gotta love the Dallas Mavericks, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, so the Dallas Mavericks, I was really excited when they got Rajon Rondo and Stoudemire because the Dallas Mavericks have a little soft spot in my heart for two reasons. One, I really like Mark Cuban as an owner. I really don't care for him on Shark Tank or whatever else he does as a businessman. But as an owner, he's very passionate. He sits on the sidelines. He gets the crowd involved. I love owners like that. I think they need more Mark Cubans as far as owners go in the NBA and all sports. And also, the Mavericks beat the Heat the first year LeBron left my beloved Cavaliers, and so they had T-shirts made called the Cleveland Mavs. So I've always kind of rooted for the Mavs from afar, and I thought the Mavericks, with getting Stoudemire, getting Rondo, along with Monte Ellis, along with Dirk, and along with Tyson Chandler, I mean, like, that's a very formidable squad. It's a lot of proven guys, a lot of battle-tested guys, a lot of guys that they all got rings. Most of them do. Monte Ellis doesn't, but everyone else does. Or no, Stoudemire doesn't. But, yeah. I mean, you got some guys there that got experience there, and you think that they would all put all their personal shit aside and get it done here in the playoffs, and they're just not doing it. And Rajon Rondo, quite frankly, is being a bitch, a little bitch. And how are you going to argue with I mean, it's one thing to like call a different player or whatever every now and then, but just like this whole drama about with the coach, it's and then it's now he's got this timely injury. So I think the Mavericks are just going to wash their hands of Rajon Rondo next year. But I think Rondo's not even hurting the team, but he is also hurting his free agency next year. I mean, these antics and, along with the injury, he's not going to be a max player. But knowing how the NBA works, his agent will go to some crappy team, and some crappy team will sign him to a max contract, and he'll go there and he'll be a distraction there, instead of like, manning up and, and doing what needs to be done. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still love the way Rick Carlisle actually basically answered the question when so is Rajon Rondo going to be there next year? No. Just flat out no. I was like, wow, I like it.
Yeah.
I can't blame him. I mean, because I was like you. I was excited to see how he would work on that team because I actually was interested to see how good they could be. And I was surprised that when he got there, he never really seemed that self-centered previously, especially because he never really had a great offensive game. But I guess he is such a true point guard. He doesn't really like to operate without the ball in his hands at the beginning of the play, which is not how the Mavericks play today. And I think that was hamstringing them, honestly. Was that Mike?
Oh, no, it was – you kind of froze there on me a little bit, but it's all good now.
All right, cool.
But yeah, no, I mean, when he was with Boston, he was always, the third option, fourth option there. And I think that, I don't know if, Kevin Garnett just, kept him in line, behind closed doors or whatnot, or, but once the big three left Boston, it was all kind of downhill for Rajon Rondo. I mean, it was like, okay, like they were basically going to start over in Boston with Rajon Rondo as like this guy who's been to the promised land. He was going to be the shining example for all these young bloods, and he just couldn't do it. And I agree with you that he's such a true point guard that he needs the ball in his hands all the time. And with such a talented roster, you have to spread that ball around, especially when you got Dirk, and Dirk can take over. And I couldn't agree more with you that that's really hamstringed his game, but he's at that point in his career where you think he could kind of evolve a little bit. But.
Yeah, that's to me. I think that'll be his next test if he really wants to go to somewhere where he doesn't just want a paycheck. He actually wants to win. If he just wants a paycheck, he'll be able to find a team that'll give it to him. But if he actually wants to win, he's going to have to adapt. But again, we'll have to kind of see. Kind of going along with our NBA theme so far. So I'm going to kind of go into the Washington Wizards here. I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, they actually won 2 away games, the first 2 away games in Toronto, and are actually up 2-0, which I don't know if it's Paul Pierce calling them out. I mean, Paul Pierce had a hell of a game the first game to help him win, and then the second game, Wall suddenly realized, oh, wait, that's right, I am supposed to be a superstar. So to me, that's interesting that I don't know what it took. I don't know why they took so long to suddenly click. But towards the end of the season, it didn't seem like this was going to happen. It seemed like they were just going to either get swept or they were going to lose in the first round. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Paul Pierce has a lot to do with it. This is his last show. This is his last rodeo. I don't think he wants to go out in the first round, and I think that he's definitely was there's probably the catalyst that kind of lit a fire under John Wall and Bradley Beal, rest of the team. From our previous episodes, you talk about the coach when you walked off I don't think that the coach has anything to do with this at all. I think it's all in the players. And it also, I think as much as credit is due to the Wizards, playing up to their potential, I think it's also on the Raptors too. I mean, they've lost 2 straight home games, and the whole city of Toronto, Toronto's the Paris of North America, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's that big melting pot up north in Canada, and they're just so passionate right now for that basketball team. You think that they'd at least get 1 home game, man. You think they would at least get 1 victory, and they haven't been able to do it. And I don't know if it's just, they need more than just Kyle Lowry and his and the supporting cast. I think they might need some more pieces, obviously. But it's really surprising though. As much, I don't know what's a bigger surprise, that the Wizards are starting to play to their potential, or that the Raptors haven't been able to take one yet. So,
yeah, I mean. So I was surprised that the Raptors did as well. I mean, I know they have Kyle Lowry, but besides that, they really don't have a lot of depth and a lot of great stars on that team. They just play great team ball, which I guess really that's the theme of the East now that I think about it.
Yeah,
it's great team ball.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a lot of the superstars are really in the West, and the superstars are only so spread out in the East now, and you really have to play good team ball. Just watching the Cavs-Celtics series, the Celtics have been playing really good team ball, and they've been hanging around and on the Cavs. But once the Cavs start playing their team ball, I mean, they were unbeatable. But there was just long spurts of time, during the Cavs series, and we'll even see it tonight. Where they'll fall behind. They kind of get lackadaisical. And then once they start passing the ball around, get everybody involved, start running some real plays, that's when good things happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely been interesting keeping up with the NBA playoffs. What's been somewhat intriguing, because especially with the way the Clips started in the first game against the Spurs and beat them, I wouldn't say dominantly, but beat them pretty well. Yeah. And they were even leading last night, actually, towards the end before overtime. And then I believe the Spurs caught back, or the Clips caught back. I can't remember now, honestly. And that went to OT. And I actually figured once it went to OT, the Clips, just being youth, just age alone, because, I mean, they've got a few good younger players on the Spurs, but not overall. They're just sprinkled with them right now. Yeah. I was surprised that the Clips didn't seal that deal in OT. Now, I will say this. The Spurs are a veteran team, and Popovich is an amazing coach. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he would let the team give up. So that to me was impressive. But I guess I didn't get a chance really to watch the entire game. From what I heard, even though Blake Griffin had a triple-double, he also created a couple errors.
Yeah. And yeah, and I mean, when it comes to, a Greg Popovich coach team, I mean, we see this throughout the season. He sits his players. He knows how to manage his players and manage the minutes. And, especially when it goes into OT, I don't think he goes into panic mode at all. He knows these guys are good, rested, ready to go. And they got just enough youth on that team where it's and that youth has got championship experience. So it's, they know what it takes. And, and I think it just goes, and it just baffles me with the Clippers. it's not like they got a bunch of young bloods on that team. I mean, you got Jordan, you got Paul, you got Griffin, you got who's the guy off the bench? He's the sixth man all the time.
Is it Kennedy? No.
No. But he's it's not Bledsoe. They got rid of Bledsoe, but it's
they got rid of Bledsoe.
But that sixth man off the bench, I forget his name. I feel really bad, but it's not like they got a young team. I mean, these guys are ready to win. They should be, they should be able to put games like that away, especially at home. I mean, you got your one superstar's got a triple double. You're at home. I mean, you got to be able to put these guys away, and not to mention Doc Rivers is your coach. I don't see how. And we talked about it before. Is that really the most interesting series is going to be right now is going to be the Clippers Spurs, and without a doubt, it definitely has been
living up to it.
It'll be very interesting, huh?
It's Crawford and Redick.
Crawford, that's it. Yeah, Jamal Crawford. Yeah, the guy's a monster, and and JJ Redick's a sharpshooter. It's like these guys have been around for a while, and it'll be very interesting to see how these guys bounce back. And I think depending on how they bounce back will show their maturity and whether or not they have what it takes to make a deep run.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially, just the depth alone. And I think this will be their true test to actually see what they can do. I'm really curious to also see when New Orleans goes back home, especially with as close. I mean, it's not been – I won't say that it's been really close, but I think the Warriors have been letting New Orleans stay a little too close for the first two games, because I think if you let a team that young, I mean, there really is – they've got nothing to lose. If you let them think they have an inkling of a chance, I think there's a chance they steal at least one home game.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. You give a team like that just a little bit of hope, and they're just gonna say the hell with it, and they're just gonna go leave it all out on the court. It'll probably only be for a game. It'll probably be their home game, but no, you're totally right, and it'll give them something to build on next year, especially they'll probably be making moves in the offseason too to try to get that team better. Especially a lot of free agents wouldn't mind playing with Anthony Davis. So.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And his unibrow. So.
Oh man, yeah. So the last story I've got is a little NFL. Greg Hardy gets a 10-game suspension. So I'm not surprised he got suspended. I am surprised the number of games, but I guess we'll have to see if that actually sticks. But to me, I think it's a lot more severe than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be between 4 to 6 games, but to me, if the 10 actually sticks, this hurts the Cowboys, like big time. They basically have to hope that they're in the playoffs by the time he comes back, because otherwise they wasted their money for this year.
Oh yeah, and the Cowboys somewhat try to cover their ass when they sign Greg Hardy. A lot of it is incentive laden contract. So I don't even think he might be getting paid $1 million like up front.
No,
but
right.
He has a possibility of making a lot more, depending on his performance. But as far as the whole 10-game suspension goes, I think Goodell is overcompensating kind of for trying to make up for the Ray Rice thing, and the Adrian Peterson debacle, and it's. So if we've seen things from the past, like the whole Raplesberger thing going on, he appealed his suspension. I don't know if it was like 6 games. He got reduced to 4. So usually what they do is they kind of overdo it, and then in the appeals process they'll probably get it reduced. So I could see him probably going anywhere between 6 to 8 games. But if you look at what like Greg Hardy actually did, though, he did some messed up stuff. He choked his girlfriend. He threw her on his arsenal of guns, and it was several domestic violence instances. It wasn't just hitting her one time in an elevator at a casino. This was several times. So I don't know if they took that into as a factor or not, but we'll find out. I don't see him doing 10 games though, especially being on the Cowboys and the preferential treatment the Cowboys get. I see him getting reduced.
Yeah. So I mean, I think because the part of this I thought it was going to stick, but then I watched a few news guys talk about it, and they were actually mentioning that if they just look at the policy, this automatically is going to not be 10 games. The policy and the Players Association fights it. The maximum it's supposed to be is 6 games because of the way they wrote the policy as this is his first offense. Even though he did it previously, it counts as the first offense according to the policy. So that, to me, I mean, if that happens, that's going to be a huge outrage because I think that's too short, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, it's, and the NFL has been struggling PR-wise just to get all this stuff right. So it'll be interesting to see. But, like I said, I think they're overcompensating with the 10 games. I don't think it'll stick. It'll definitely get reduced, especially that it's the Cowboys. But it'll be interesting to see how this affects Dallas as far as the draft goes. They might be looking for another defensive guy to kind of fill that void, or they might sign somebody. They might rent a player temporarily. So that'll be interesting. But speaking of the NFL, though, your boy Tim Tebow got signed by the Eagles. What do you think about that?
So, yeah, that's interesting. So as much as I'm a Gators fan, I was realistic about him coming out of college. I was happy when they drafted him high in the first round when the Broncos did that, but I was like, they're crazy. And it turned out to be moderately okay. It was probably a decent first-round decision considering how many games he won, not his statistics. To me, what's funnier about all of this, it's not that Chip Kelly would take the risk or take the chance on him. I mean, it's probably a veteran minimum contract as it is, laden with incentives. But I think he could actually use him. To me, what was more interesting was I can't remember if it was a Patriots quarterback coach or if it was a guy that was formerly on the Patriots that was on the Eagles now, talking about how much Tebow has improved as a quarterback.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it might have been the Eagles quarterback coach, and I think it was like the Eagles and the Patriots. They practiced together.
Okay.
Maybe a couple years ago, because a lot of NFL teams do that now. They'll scrimmage each other, and I guess they saw Tebow and he was like, seeing him then and now seeing him now, he's really come along, and I think it's just a bunch of stuff to feed the press. I mean, there's just a million scenarios why Chip Kelly went and got Tebow. One, he's running this spread option system, that Tebow flourished in. Two, it's so that Tebow will, maybe push the other quarterbacks, to get them to perform. It's or Chip Kelly's just saying I can put anybody in my system, even Tim Tebow, type of deal. So I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to excuses why they got him. I do think what's interesting is that they have not restructured Sam Bradford's contract yet. He is still on that, this is his, he's still on his last year, and the Eagles have not came out and said anything like Sam's our guy or we're in the process of putting a deal together. Like none of that has come up. And so I think that is very, very telling that either they're probably going to use Sam Bradford as a piece, in some kind of deal, whether it's to get Mariota or not, or whether it's just to get another player. I think that's very telling. And maybe they got Tebow just to build up their depth, and maybe Sanchez is going to be their guy, and Bradford's just a piece to be, as a bargaining chip. So
it's very interesting. I mean, I definitely think that wouldn't be surprising to come from them, especially. I mean, to me, it seems Chip Kelly is, as much as Eagles fans, I imagine, have to be screaming as they're watching all the talent run out the door. I think he has a bigger plan that no one really knows about. And the only question that has to be answered is whether or not his plan can completely translate with the players he has to the NFL. Because what he's doing is he's kicking out star caliber NFL players. but maybe with moderate, good NFL players, not great NFL players, maybe you can actually win with his system, which he's proven a few times that there was things going, and I was like, how in the world? Like Sanchez is an example. Like he's okay. He's not great.
Yeah.
He can, if he doesn't try to do more than he needs to, he can be okay. So
yeah, as long as you don't count on him to win you the game, he will be serviceable. And and a lot of teams have tried to do that. My beloved Browns are trying to do that. It's this whole New York Jets, Seattle Seahawks philosophy where you get this amazing defense, an amazing running game, and you try to get a quarterback that won't lose you the game. But eventually they're gonna shut down the run and they're gonna force the quarterback to beat you. And that's why it's a quarterback-driven league. A quarterback has to be a franchise quarterback, has to be able to literally put the whole team on his shoulders and win the game for you. And so we'll see if that happens here. But and Chip Kelly's, I agree that he might be. I think he's trying to prove that his system is bigger than the league, bigger than the game. Trying to break down this barrier that it's all about the quarterback. Where trying to see that there's a lot more moving parts. So
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. And next week will be the draft, and we'll see where my Buccaneers go.
They don't have too many. I mean, they probably have a ton of options, but it'll probably be famous Jameis, though. I think.
So there's a part of me that says yes, I want him, and there's another part of me that goes, please make sure he has a babysitter for 6 months, because I don't think he's. Let's see. I don't think he's a complete wreck like a couple guys that have come into the league. Yeah. But I think there's a mental gap. I think his body has matured many years. His brain, it's still in high school.
Yeah. And when I look at Jameis Winston, it's like I totally agree with that. I think his football IQ is right on par, but it's everything else. I don't know if you watched it on ESPN. They had Harbaugh was interviewing him and talking about the whole crab legs thing, and he's just like, "Oh, I know a dude that worked at Publix and said it was okay. I could take whatever I wanted, so I just walked in and grabbed it and walked out. Like I thought it was cool. Like, come on, man. Like, how mature are you?" And it's like stupid shit like that. It's like, come on, dude. Like, I don't care how many blitzes you can read, or pick up. It's like stupid shit like that'll cost you. Whether it could cost you on the field, and it'll definitely cost you off the field. What I think though will be huge is if the Buccaneers do not pick Jameis Winston and kind of see if Winston will start to fall. It kind of reminds me of the movie Draft Day, starring my beloved Cleveland Browns and Kevin Costner, where they had the number 1 overall pick and they passed on the surefire first round, number 1 overall pick quarterback, and then he just fell through the draft. I wonder if there could be a similar scenario with Jameis Winston if the Buccaneers don't pick him, which I do think the Bucs will. I think there's just so much going on there. He's from Alabama, I think, or Texas, or I don't know. I don't think he's from Florida though. But I mean, he's with the Florida State, northern Florida, central Florida. There, it's a good marriage. He's going to have a strong following down there, so it'll be interesting. Which coming up next week, we're going to be talking major draft with us, and hopefully Max will put on his big boy pants and join us, and it'll be very interesting. We'll come up with some good stories for you, and have some mock, maybe not complete mock drafts, but some big predictions for certain teams. So
absolutely, yeah, I definitely think that'll be the way we'll go. So yeah, I think that's it. That's all I got. Do you have anything else, Mike?
No, that's about it. Just sitting here, enjoying my IPA, and be waiting for next week for draft night, baby.
Oh yeah, it'll be awesome. We'll see. I'm guaranteed we'll see some shakeups further on in the draft, if not at the top. So It'll definitely be exciting. And so yeah, come join us next week as we primarily probably be focused on the draft, and well, I'm sure we'll touch on the NBA and NHL depending on where it's at that point. Let's see. I think that's it for the heads up. But please feel free to like us on YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to send us in to there or go to our website and send us at 3geeks.ninja. You can visit us there, or you can even watch us on iTunes. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please also put them at the bottom of our YouTube channel, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Believe, lad!
We got some outgoing Cleveland. Cleveland wins, and I suspect that's going to happen tonight. But we shall see. Maybe Boston will kind of catch the Cavs sleeping. I doubt it. I don't think LeBron will let that happen.
He's shut down all his social media. He's focused. He's lasered in.
There we go. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Have a good night.
Cheers.